Welcome to the Octopod. I'm Kyle Davis, Head of the Office of the CTO. Join us as we dive into the latest technologies and trends shaping business. Whether you're a tech enthusiast, a business leader, or just looking to stay ahead in the digital age, this podcast is for you. Let's unlock opportunities with technology together. Let's jump in.
This time we're going to delve into the world of cloud optimization and the power of partnership within that ecosystem. And I'm excited to be joined by Dean from Dell. Today we're really going to start touching on the solutions and the options and why some of the heritage of an organization like Dell be so relevant in the public cloud world going forward. So, Dean, what are you seeing as the two big trends for customers on this sort of cloud optimization / cloud journey in general?
So, Rob, thanks for having me back again. It's great to be here. So, look, the two biggest trends that I'm typically seeing from customer engagement where they're coming into our tech briefing centers and so on is really around two camps. They're either looking to accelerate their journey into the public cloud. And we talked about that in Series 1, some of the dynamics and the challenges that customers are trying to achieve because the board are putting pressure on the business to do that for whatever reason. There's a number of them. So it's really about how do we help them in a seamless, universal way to be able to help them migrate those workloads into the data layer, not the application layer, but the data layer.
But that's one of the big gravity parts of the conversation. If you've got terabytes and terabytes of data to move, that isn't a small task. And then to do that in such a way that's connected from an application perspective is maintaining data protection, compliance, regulatory, all of that sort of stuff. If you want to get to cloud quick, data is going to be one of your biggest challenges. And also, when we say quick, that quick could still be years.
Yes.
And actually, what do you do with that traditional data center estate while you make that transition? How do you balance sort of investments in technology across the two estates? So there's lots of aspects that accelerate to cloud, and I think we'll touch on a few more of them later, but it's a bit more nuanced than I think people give it credit for at times.
Well, and you can't beat physics, right? So, you can only move as fast as the speed of light will allow you to achieve that. And you're absolutely right. Networking plays a part into that conversation. So naturally, our customers are looking at how do we simplify that movement, that agility of data, and through the solutions that we have, it gives our customers that ability to be able to do that. And it might be a one-step migration. It might be a replication capability. It might be two. It depends on where the customer is in their journey. So that's kind of what I'm seeing as probably number one is that acceleration.
Cool. And then number two?
The second one is really interesting because there's 2/3 right in there, but it is focused around really that optimization of cloud costs, which is a huge problem for financial leaders, typically within our customers and who we're dealing with. The recognition that actually operating in the public cloud is not particularly cheap. Customers equally are finding themselves where they need extreme performance when operating in the public cloud. And as we talked about earlier, the historics of public cloud in itself is quite vanilla in terms of the variations. And if you want to move up through those tiers, typically within the public cloud, it can become really expensive.
Yeah, the t-shirt sizing approaches, the way they measure performance on disks and compute, etc. It leads you down roads that are possibly over complex compared to the way we've been doing things for the last 20 years in the data center effectively. But we need to get that, as I said before, that best of both worlds, don't we? So that really, the second one is really that cost optimization then for customers who have already made that jump but now want to rationalize and get the true value from that cloud transformation they've already done.
And it's creating almost like, and I'm going to borrow a term from a CTO that I had an in-depth conversation for a very large bank, and it's about creating this frictionless factory type ecosystem between those two worlds, which obviously quite hacky to borrow. And it was a great analogy because you've got on one side of the fence you've got FinOps and cloud individuals that don't really care about the operation and how they get available space. They will go to wherever they need to. They'll use a credit card. They'll buy the consumption, and typically they might be running the most expensive disk, when the reality is they don't need that. And we're seeing that time and time again with customers. They're going in there, they might be going into a Microsoft estate and they're buying a significant amount of managed SSD v2 instances or ultra disks for a workload that doesn't need it. And then they go, well, why is my cost base so expensive?
Yeah.
And it's about that rationalization of that workload.
100%. And is there a third there, I think, then potentially around the sort of operational burden? Because if we've got the reality that it's hybrid, we don't want to have multiple teams. We already know that, sort of multi-cloud environments can be quite complex. If you've got to manage, all three of them primary providers, they're three very different skill sets. So you then add in on-prem, again, you've now got 4 skill sets that you need. And even if we are getting into the networking complexities, from a storage and compute perspective, they're very different environments. If you go with a complete multi-cloud approach, I think there's some operational consistency that could be a big challenge as well.
Well, it's a challenge, not impossible, but it is a challenge.
Or an opportunity, shall we call it?
Well, you could absolutely call it that, Rob. The reality is that our customers, as we said earlier, are getting more and more complex in terms of their estates, in terms of how they're managing their data, and there is no one size fits all in this. And look, if we can help them simplify that through giving them a common storage layer across the two worlds, and that's definitely a way to go in terms of being able to simplify at least some of that noise.
Yeah. And I guess that simplification piece then comes to that strategy. And if anyone's been following Dell for the last 2-3 years maybe, this ground to cloud and cloud to ground messaging has been quite prevalent. And I think some of that will tie to, the optimization, but also that operational piece. But what is it for the people listening? What are these two strategies, and why have you coined these two terms?
It quite rolls off the tongue quite nicely, so I can understand why. So marketing have done a great job in that regard. But the concept of ground to cloud and cloud to ground is to create a 360 ecosystem for customers, where regardless of where they wish to have the workload, we've got a solution that can help to create almost like a universal storage layer between them. And what I mean by that is that Dell has been operating inside of the data center, and even EMC, before as part of the merger, have been operating probably in the data center for the best part of 4 decades. So there's a significant amount of IP that sits within our organization in terms of how do you manage data. And therefore, we've managed to decouple our storage layer, our enterprise storage layer, from the data center environment that customers know and love. And we've managed to extend that into the public cloud itself, running on their storage disk types that operate inside of Microsoft, AWS, and inside of Google. So retrospectively, if you look at what that means for customers, those that are familiar with the tool sets that Dell have been operating within that ecosystem for such a long time, they're going to have the exact same experience when they operate in the cloud in terms of that manageability and the feature sets in particular that they've known and loved that the public cloud just doesn't provide today. If we look at the other side of the coin, so we've talked about the operations from and extending from the data center into the cloud. But if we talk about that cloud to ground conversation, it's really where we worked tirelessly with the likes of Microsoft and others, where we've built co-engineered solutions that allows customers to take advantage of the services that the cloud providers offer, but can bring it into the data center. So, you've got our ACP, so our Apex Cloud Platform solutions for both Red Hat and Azure. We've got future releases with other hypervisors that you'll be aware of, Rob, that we can't really probably talk about right now because they're not open to the market. But that investment is continuing. This is an evolution. Right, and we're not going to stop there. And by creating that environment, it becomes that conversation that we talked about in the first series.
But that taking away the technical side of things like storage, what we're saying is actually that sort of ubiquitous experience that actually, if I do want to run a hybrid estate, I can have the same management experience, the same operational experience, whether it's in a data center on the edge, in a battleship or on a smart city or something, or whether it's in the public cloud. And actually how then we can operate that as a single entity will allow some of that promise of reduced complexity and operational overhead that we said cloud should have given us will be a reality.
But it's not just the cloud providers. The cloud providers themselves, as part of that conversation, have recognized that if they really want to get closer to their customers and they want to understand, they're coming to Dell and they're saying to Dell, what can we co-engineer and build in the data center and at the edge that's going to help with that ubiquitous experience? And they see that partnership. And this is where, almost in a power of three motion, where you've got CDW, a cloud provider, and Dell all working in a cohesive environment, creating value for customers to understand, well, how do we do that and how do we drive value for you? And obviously all of the stuff we talked about in terms of there are drivers of reasons why customers want to go to cloud. We can address them as in parallel.
And accelerate them.
And help them accelerate.
And get the value, etc. Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that power of three things is fantastic, and it's great from our perspective because we're really trying to make sure everyone in our business talks in this independent manner to customers, and we're not attached to any one particular outcome. So it's not like it's all cloud or it's all data center, or it's all edge, or it's all this. It's just what's the right decision to support the business. Because at the end of the day, that's what technology is here to do, is help the business drive forward, innovate, differentiate, great customer service, whatever it happens to be. Because that's where the revenue's coming from that's eventually paying for the platform. It's not just, platform for platform's sake. It'd be nice, flashing lights and widgets is all great, but where's the business value at the end of the day?
If we talk about value, and keep me honest, Rob, you've got some great services, right, to help customers on that journey when it comes to deploying and managing their entities within the public cloud that can help with driving that value.
100%, and I think that's the piece, is rather than us coming in and saying our only answer is AWS, what's the question? Our question is, what's the business challenge? Let's work out the answer. And if that is on-prem, great. If it's cloud, great. If it's edge, great. If it's whatever cloud provider, it's great. It doesn't matter to us because we're not tied to one particular outcome. It allows us to be far more independent with our customers. So, cool. So I think that gives a scene set of, well, actually, how can we help solve some of these problems? How can we provide that universal experience? I think what would be great, Dean, is in the next one, let's dive into one of them particular outcomes, that universal storage piece that you've talked about. Why should people care? I think that would be a great conversation for part 3. So we'll see you then.
Maybe a bit of secret sauce as well.
Thanks for listening, everyone. I've been Rob Sims, Chief Technologist for CDW in the UK.
And I'm Dean Martin, the cloud provider lead for Dell Technologies.
Excellent. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.
Into today's episode. Be sure to check out the back catalogue for more great insights. Don't forget to subscribe via your favourite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. We appreciate your support. And if you have a topic you want us to cover, feel free to reach out. Catch you next time.